Hair is a bitch.
Yep.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Two Wise Girls podcast. Today we have a brief D&D campaign update from William, and then we're going to be talking about Lost Heroes some more.
Definitely not going to be a bunch of races for the different races in Percy Jackson.
Wait. Hold on. Wait, pause there.
We're going to get flagged.
No, but, okay, I didn't use the D&D language when explaining this all the first time. Magical races in D&D are picking things like elf, human, dwarf. And then you have class, which is like what job you do. And so
No, it's how you fight.
It's how
your
you fight.
Your job is your background.
Okay. Well, it's kind of a combo. But yeah, so what we're considering our magical races for this campaign is we have Hunter, Cyclops, Satyr, Demigod, and then each of the demigods, of course, we're going with the 11 that are at Camp Half-Blood, the 11 types of cabins at Camp Half-Blood.
I actually haven't done Hephaestus, Aphrodite, or Dionysus yet.
Okay, so we have done that. I can do math. 8 out of 11.
Yes. All right. So, first, we're doing satyrs.
Mm-hmm.
First off, no matter what kind of satyr you are, you get these buffs. Or you get this. So, first ability score increase, your wisdom and charisma both increase by 1. And your age, they mature in their mid-30s and live for about 150 years. Alignment, they tend to be neutral to chaotic good. That's the same as the earlier one. Size, satyrs tend to be same size as human of the equivalent age. Your size is medium. Speed, your base walking speed is 25 feet, while climbing is 35 feet. It's harder to walk in hooves than in feet, but is more efficient for climbing. Dark vision. With your heightened senses, you can see dim light 10 feet in front of you as if it were bright, and dark as if it were dim. Keen senses. You have proficiency in the perception skill. Wild. You get infinite casts of speak with animals. So basically, you get it as a free cantrip. There are 2 sub-races for the satyr, the searcher and the worker. So if you're a searcher, which means you search for half-bloods, you get wisdom increased by another 1, and myth recall, which means you have proficiency in the arcana skill. And if you're a worker, which means you're like in the fields, ability score increase, your charisma increases by 1, and you have proficiency in the nature skill.
Yeah, so some of these stats were they based, because there are satyrs in regular D&D, right?
Yes, but not in the player's handbook, and I made my own, and did not look at the satyrs that are actually there.
Yeah, so William is, we just started the 4th book deep into this, so he's kind of gotten a feel for what Grover can do, so some of this, of course, is based off of the books. I think we also looked a little bit into goat behavior, right?
No, I did what I remembered. And the slide from the original said heightened senses, so I gave it dark vision.
Okay, why are we giving them a charisma and a wisdom boost?
Well, wisdom, because they gotta know history, if they're searching for demigods and fighting monsters and stuff, and they're trying. It's like, I think they're gonna protect the camp if the demigods can't.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it's also their home.
Protect the camp, so they need a wisdom increase. They also deserve a charisma increase.
Yeah. For those of you that don't know, Grover is his favorite of the trio. His other favorite character is Tyson.
Alright, so for the hunters, your dex and constitution both increase by 1, and for the age, state age, they were recruited for their whole life. For alignment, they tend to be neutral to lawful good. Size, you're 3 to 5 feet tall, and your size is small. Because I'm pretty sure they're all kids, right?
Yeah, I would say they're close to your age, though, and maybe a little bit into high school years, because Thalia is 15 when she turned, remember? And Artemis appears to be like 12, 13 years old.
All right. For the speed, base walking speed is 25 feet, and the other two, swimming and climbing, they're normal, which is half. Dark vision, accustomed to twilight forests and the in the night. You have superior vision in dark and dim conditions. You can see in dim light within 60 feet of you, as if it were bright light, and darkness as if it were dim. You can't discern color in darkness, only shades of gray. Cantrip. One cantrip of your choice from the sorcerer's spell list with a stat of your choice. So you can choose if you want to be. I don't think there's any strength, dex, or constitution casters, but I actually made the Poseidon Kids Constitution caster, so you
Can you explain what the difference is?
You use that like stat bonus for your spells. So if it asks for your modifier.
Okay, but can you explain in non-D&D terms what the different types of casters are?
So wizards, they use their intelligence, which means intelligence does, right?
It's skills you've learned, right?
Yes, wisdom is like the world.
Wisdom is street smart. And then there's
also charisma caster.
Okay, and charisma caster means?
You cast with your charisma.
I know, but can you phrase that in a non-D&D way?
You cast with how people feel about you. That's basically what charisma is.
Okay.
It's how other people feel about you. Alright. So.
It's hard for me to picture. I don't know what that means. I guess
the perception of your power?
It's like bards, they're a charisma caster. They cast
How would somebody in Percy Jackson do that? I'm trying to picture what that would be like, and I can't
Maybe
picture.
the Aphrodite kids would be charisma casters because, they're using their Aphrodite skills to, enchant you or to do things to their appearance, other people's appearances, things like that.
Okay.
And there's one more feature of the hunters, which is you can take one feature from the previous race you were before you became a hunter.
Okay.
So, for example, you can take the Speak with Animals cantrip from satyrs. They're always male. They're always
they're usually male. I don't know if female satyrs exist.
You can take an immunity to fire from the Cyclops.
Okay, or if you're a demigod child, can you take an ability from the demigod part?
Yes.
Okay.
But you can only take, if you're one of the special ones that I'll talk about soon, because we still have Cyclopes, you can only take one of the special spells from the element control, which is where you get all of your spells of your element. That's actually why I didn't do Hephaestus, because there's because Poseidon Kids, they already had a lot, and Hephaestus, there's 3 times as many fire spells as there is water spells.
Yeah, the Lost Hero chapters we're gonna talk about today deal a lot with Hephaestus Kid powers, and they're pretty powerful sometimes.
Alright, so Cyclopes. Your strength and dexterity both increase by 1. And your age, you mature at 1.5 times the speed of a human and live to be 200 years on average.
Okay.
And size, Cyclops of the age of adventuring are between 7 to 9 feet tall. Your size is medium. Speed, your base walking speed is 20 feet as your extra weight slows you down. Flame worker. Oh wait, I forgot to add the fact that they can swim faster than normal.
Because they're Poseidon children, technically? Yes. Okay, that makes sense.
Piece immunity to fire attacks.
Okay.
In Smith, you got proficiency with Smith's tools and Mason's tools. and hidden in sight. Because people can't, look at your face easily, they're going to have trouble aiming. So people have disadvantage on at looking at you. So they're going to have disadvantage on perception checks against you.
Okay.
And then we've made it to the demigod children. The first one I did was half Zeus, but I'm not going to do that because that'll take forever. So we're going to do the Aries kids first.
Okay, we'll start with
Ability
Aries.
score increase. Your strength and constitution increases by 1. Alignment tend to gravitate towards the chaotic side. Speed, your base speed is 35 feet. Master of Battle, you get proficiency in all weapons and armor. Master of Strategy, you get proficiencies in all intelligence checks in battle.
Specifically in battle, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Half. Athena kids. Ability score increase. Your intelligence, wisdom, and strength increases by 1. Alignment tend to gravitate towards being lawful, mostly lawful good. Speed, your base walking speed is 20 feet. Remembrance, you get advantage on wisdom. Not sure why this says Windows. History checks. Lower skill, you get proficiency with martial weapons.
Okay. Is there any other ones that would probably apply in battle, maybe?
One second. I need to change this because this was actually worse than I thought it was.
I think the other thing too, and this is something we'll get to in probably a couple of chapters of the book we're reading, is that Athena kids they're also a little bit like artificers in regular D&D, so they can make magical stuff, or they're really skilled at machinery.
And wisdom increases by 2, and strength increases by 1.
Okay.
But their base walking speed is 20 feet, so they're probably going to suck in battle anyways.
I would consider an Athena kid probably more armored.
Because Annabeth sucks in battle.
She's not that bad. You just don't.
She only kills people when she's invisible.
Isn't that high stealth, at least?
That doesn't... You could kill anyone if you were invisible.
True, but I don't know. I think you're being a little harsh on Annabeth.
Abilities... Alright, half Hermes. Ability score increase. Your dexterity and charisma increases by 2. Alignment tend to gravitate towards the chaotic side. Speed, your base speed is 35 feet. Thief, you advantage with dexterity, sleight of hand, and dexterity stealth checks. Economic.
Slow down.
Sorry, I like talking really fast. You have advantage on charisma persuasion checks when money is involved. Mm-hmm. This is actually pretty good because you get +4 and don't suck. Because you get 3 check bonuses.
Yeah, I would say you definitely want to make sure a Hermes kid is going to be fastest speed out of the demigod kids. It's kind of because he's also the god of travel.
He is actually tied with Zeus kids because I wanted Zeus kids to be faster than normal. But Zeus kids, if I go scroll up or down now because I scrolled up way too far. So ability score increase, your charisma increases by 1 because they're natural leaders. Alignment, high tendency towards chaotic neutral. Speed, your base walking speed is 35 feet, but your swimming speed, it's only 10.
Okay, so they're bad swimmers.
Of your walking speed.
Okay.
And element control. At first level, you get Shocking Grasp as a free cantrip. You get to choose 2 between Thunderwave, Thunderous Smite, Chromatic Orb, only lightning or thunder damage, and Witch Bolt at level 3 to use your spell slots on, or free cast up to double your charisma modifier, minimum 1 for full rest. You get Gust of Wind 1 time per short rest at 5th level.
What does that mean?
It's spell.
What does it do?
It makes a gust of wind.
Okay, it makes a gust of wind. Yes, okay.
You get to choose 2 of Call Lightning, elemental weapon, only lightning. Lightning Arrow or Lightning Bolt at level 7 to use spell slots on or use 2 times plus your charisma modifier, minimum 2 per full rest. You get Chain Lightning at level 12 to use with spell slots or your charisma modifier per full rest. You get Control Weather at level 16 to use with spell slots or runs before going to sleep for only 6 days, because otherwise that's a really powerful spell. It would be super overpowered to use.
Okay. So a lot of lightning powers.
Yes.
Okay.
And 1 thunder attack. Because Chromatic Orb can do lightning damage, but it can also do thunder damage. And half Poseidon Kids. Ability score increase, your constitution increases by 1 because nothing else fits.
Yeah, Constitution is like the equivalent of, like, it's kind of health, but kind of not, right?
Having a higher constitution increases your health.
It increases your health. Okay.
Alignment tend to be on the good side. Speed, your base walking speed is 25 feet, but your swimming speed is 25 feet as well. Sailor, you automatically know your nautical location. I almost said nautical location in the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
You automatically translate horses and horse-adjacent animal speak.
Mm-hmm.
Element control. At first level, you get Create or Destroy Water as a cantrip. At level 3, you get Purify Food and Drink, only water, and Cure Wounds, only with both user and target in water, to cast with spell slots, or a number of times equal to 1 plus your Constitution modifier, minimum 2. At level 4, you get Misty Step as a spell casted with spell slots for once per short rest. At 5th level, you get Water Breathing as Water Walk. Spells you can cast 4 plus your Constitution modifier, minimum 4, per short rest in water. So if you sleep in, like, a pool or something, or a full rest. At level 7, you get Control Water, casted with spell slots. Whenever you go into a Rage as a barbarian, Action Surge as a fighter, or use Flurry of Blows as a monk, which are all class features.
Okay.
At level 16, you get Control Weather or Earthquake, castable by spell slots or once per 5 full rest.
Okay. And then, wait, what are you imagining that the different paths to get, like, monk, barbarian, and fighter?
Action Surge basically lets you attack 2 more times.
Okay, you can choose these.
Rage, it lets you do more damage per attacks.
Mm-hmm.
And Flurry of Blows, it's basically just Action Surge, but you punch instead of sword. Alright. Demeter Kids, your wisdom increases by 1. You do not gravitate towards any alignment. Your base walking speed is 30 feet. You get advantage on checks related to cooking because there are not any specific checks that are said to work with cooking. It's kind of a random whether your GM tells you to do a nature or a survival check.
Okay.
On
a cooking thing?
Yes.
Okay.
At first level, you get Druidcraft. At 3rd level, you get Goodberry Ensnaring Strike, or Hail of Thorns.
Mm-hmm.
At 4th level, you get Locate Animals or Plants, only plants, bark skin, or spike growth. At 7th level, you get Plant Growth and either speak with plants or 2 ones you didn't previously choose.
Mm-hmm.
At 10th level, you get Grasping Vine and all the spells you missed. At 12th level, you get Commune with Nature, Tree Stride. And at 13th level, you get Transport via Plants and Wall of Thorns.
Okay. Is that Vine Whip a spell, or am I thinking of a Pokemon attack?
That's Grasping Vine.
Oh, okay.
Vine Whip's a Pokemon attack. It's Bulbasaur's first attack.
I'm, like, literally looking at a plushie of Bulbasaur where I'm like, is a Vine Whip a thing?
Yeah, it's right there.
Okay, what's the next demigod child?
Apollo Kid. And I actually only completed half of these because I made it so they can either be a prophet or they can either cast prophet spells or light spells, so you get to choose.
Mm-hmm.
So and I only did the prophet spells because I needed a break.
Okay. Fair.
Alignment. Do not gravitate towards any alignment. Speed, your base speed is 30 feet. Sniper, you get proficiency with ranged weapons. Musician, you get to give bardic inspiration. If you're already a bard, you get to give double the normal amount. Sub-races, there are 2 sub-races for the Apollo kids, Prophet and the Lighter.
Okay.
Prophet. This is the only one I did, because the other one
You're working on.
Yes. Ability score increase. Your wisdom increases by 2. Predictor. At first level, you get message or guidance. At third level, you get bless, compel, duel, or divine favor as ritual spells. Fifth level, you get see invisibility, find traps, or dark vision as ritual spells, as well as getting vicious mockery as a cantrip.
Okay.
At 7th level, you get Speak with Dead and Counterspell as ritual spells. At 9th level, you get Locate Creature, Locate Object, and Locate Animals or Plants. At 10th level, you get Divination as a ritual spell. At 11th level, you get Dispel Evil and Good or Contact Other Plane as a ritual spell. At 13th level, you get True Seeing as a ritual spell, and all spells you missed as normal spells. So ritual spells, basically, they take longer, but you don't need spell slot.
Okay.
Spells, you need spell slots. At 14th level, you get Mass Suggestion as a ritual spell. At 18th level, you get Astral Projection or Foresight as a ritual spell.
Okay, and then we were thinking for the Apollo kids, because their weapon of choice is usually a bow, but like that, I'm thinking they would be good at most projectile type weapons, so like a slingshot, for example, or William's extreme example of a gun. Like I do see them potentially being good with those just because of their good aiming ability with bows and arrows.
Okay.
Yes, you don't never wrote it down.
Yeah, you forgot to mention that one, so I figured. Let's see. Trying to think of any questions that I have about.
Oh wait, no, I didn't. It's up there. It's just not in the profit area because it works with both of them.
Was that as far as you've gotten?
That was as far as I've gone.
Yeah,
I've gone for Aphrodite kids. Ability score increase, your charisma increases by 1, and alignment kind of gravitate towards neutral alignments.
Yeah, so I would say Aphrodite kids would definitely be a charisma caster of some sort. Most of their abilities have to do with like making people like them, think they're attractive, listen to them, that kind of stuff. So that's the direction I would go on that one. But to kind of like to summarize this, we're basically putting what we said about each of these characters you could choose from
in actual rules.
Into actual D&D terms and into like things that will allow us to play it a little bit easier. So a lot of what William was mentioning was the spells.
Yeah, there's like 50 billion spells.
There's a lot of spells. So he's going through the player's handbook and seeing which ones kind of align with what we said each of the kids can do. And that'll give us an idea because you need to know what spells we're using in order to know which dice we're rolling for a certain attack and how much damage it could potentially do as another dice roll on top of that. So
if it hits is another dice roll.
Yes. So this kind of helps guide those choices. Shannon's familiar with Zelda, and so like it's basically us manually doing some of the things that happen within the game.
Mortal, but Mortal's just human, except they're immune to like the.
Well, okay, I want you to get farther into Battle of the Labyrinth to see what humans are really capable of in this world sometimes. That's definitely the best place to see it is on the adventure we're currently reading. That being said, one thing I happen to notice is that you made some of these spells achievable at pretty high levels. And that's probably...
we're not getting that high.
I was just about to say
that's probably what the... But it's not fair to give us 9th level spells. So the level of your character, it doesn't perfectly match the level of the spell, because spells only go up to 9. And you get the level 9 spells super late into your character.
Yeah, so and we are envisioning that these characters could be used for a second campaign. Reading Battle of the Labyrinth, of course, it seems like another great quest idea that we can send these D&D characters we're creating on if we decide to continue this. And it just, like, I could see that being a very fun dungeon, is sending them into the labyrinth.
Yes, but also how are you gonna escape?
How are you going to escape? You'll have to see.
Yeah. There are ways to escape.
Well, so where we've gotten, they've been in the labyrinth for a while and they haven't made any exits yet. So we've seen a little bit of the whole, like, Annabeth thinking she's smarter than the labyrinth, like, oh, we'll just drag our hand along the left hand wall and then we can turn around. And then Tyson says left walls are mean because it just disappears on them.
Okay. Okay, but also we can't do that now because I don't think a level 1 Frolic Crusader Ranger whose best melee weapon is a yo-yo is gonna fare well against that.
Probably
By
not.
the way, that's what I'm playing.
Oh, we've already decided. So he's playing a satyr. At first, she was thinking a mortal with true sight.
Yeah, but I want to save mortal for a general campaign.
Or, yeah, human, anyway. You want to do a human in your next actual Dungeons and Dragons.
I want to be a human warlock, and I don't want to say anymore.
Okay. I will give you just, like, one more suggestion as we're writing this is, I wouldn't be afraid to make up some of your own spells for some of the abilities we listed previously that don't fit.
But also, oh yeah, by the way, there's 3 different material components, but we aren't going to be using material components because material components are way too complicated.
I mean, some of that, so I don't know if you caught this during Titan's Curse, but the hunters seem to have magical bow and arrows where anytime they reach for their quiver, there's something there. So we don't have to worry about counting projectiles. That's one thing.
Yes. Except for me, because I'm a bow user who's not a hunter.
I don't know, maybe we give you a magic quiver too.
Or, since I'm a ranger, I can just take whatever the spell it is that gives you infinite ammo.
Yes.
Oh wait, that only gives you non-magical ammo. Does Celestial Bronze count as magic?
Yes, but...
Oh, dang it, I can't use that against enemies.
I mean, it's common among the people that we're playing with, though, so I don't know if we can count it necessarily as magical. Because all of the demigods have celestial bronze.
Yes, also, I would like to give Shannon a tip. Don't open a door. The doorknob could be a mimic, or the door. Check if the door is a mimic, and then just kick it down so you have to deal with the doorknob.
Well, okay, mimics are a thing in regular Dungeons and Dragons. The thing is, I don't think I'm going to be using strictly Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes,
I'm going to use the Greek mythology-inspired ones.
Yes. And I can't make those, even though I'd probably be better at it, because that's metagaming.
It is. So, I'll choose which ones. I believe there's equivalents to at least a couple of them in the actual manual. The other thing, too, is something that he's not going to know because I have to know it as the Dungeon Master, is I'm thinking the quest is going to get triggered at Camp Half-Blood by whatever direction you guys are pulled to, like, wander in, or whatever thing gets your attention first. But that also requires me making up multiple of those little quest poems. So,
and NPCs.
Yeah, and NPCs. But the NPCs aren't as hard because I can theoretically...
The hard part is coming up with a voice for everyone and any animals, because I'm going to be playing a frolic or
I have to do the voices for you.
I'm going to be talking to every animal.
Alright. Apparently I'm going to be doing voices for this. So you'll get to see my incredible voice acting that I only really pull out from
her Chiron voice is amazing.
It just sounds... I'm trying to do TV show Chiron when I do it. And also, it kind of sounds very similar to my Dumbledore, if I remember correctly. I think I only have one old man voice.
Wait, why do you have only one old man voice, but you have multiple really annoying voice?
Because it's easier to make my voice sound annoying than it is to make it sound like an old man. I don't know. All right. So, any thoughts you want to share on Battle of the Labyrinth before I let you go?
Or the end of Titan's
I don't like the fact that somebody's probably gonna die.
Oh yeah, the prophecy about someone dying. I'm not giving him
the prophecy is not what I'm talking about. The fact that there's 4 that are usually 3 is what I'm scared about. Because I don't want Tyson or Grover to die, and Percy's not gonna die, which means Annabeth's gonna die.
I guess we'll see. But yeah, I've been trying not to give him any direction on this one. Usually I'll give him a warning about his favorite characters or something like that. I'm not going to do that this time. So you're just going to have to see.
Did that with Cedric.
I mean, I kind of did.
I don't remember that.
Okay. But yeah, so we will see.
Alright, I'm gonna go because I'm really thirsty.
Alright, thank you for the D&D update. And once he finishes this document he's working on, we will share.
I'm actually gonna also add more. I'm gonna post it on YouTube and add some of my own custom things from anywhere.
Okay, so he's still got some work to do on that. It's probably not going to be linked in this podcast, but it will be linked in a future one.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, buddy. Love you.
I love you. Bye. Have fun watching. If you made it this far, comment youtube.com/Alex.
What?
Actually, comment satyrs are cool.
Comment satyrs are cool if you've watched this far.
Replace the satyr, but replace the Y in satyrs with an I.
So, Lost Hero. To get into it for today, we learned Leo's backstory, and oh my gosh, Hera's a bitch.
Yep.
Okay, so that's kind of my first thoughts. But to get into what we read, Leo, of course, is having this realization of, I just volunteered for a quest. I just volunteered for a quest. And, he has this plan of he's going to figure out the flying machine. We know that he's already got his eyes a little bit on the dragon that's wandering the woods. So the 2 of the chapters that we read that were his perspective were that whole journey.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one, it starts around with him remembering Tia Kalita, which is the ghost specter person he saw a few chapters ago. He reminisces this is a childhood babysitter. And the childhood babysitting adventures read a lot like the Hymn to Demeter, where they talk about her kidnapping baby is it Demophone? Demophone, yes. And so he says things like she was kind of creepy. She always was black veiled. She smelled like a honey-baked ham and always wore a widow's dress with a black shawl. That part I didn't understand why that's how he sees her. Just interesting to me.
Does that have to do with the fact that he's an Hephaestus kid?
I'm not sure. I mean, the black part. So when Demeter was in disguise, when she did this with a baby, she was partially saying like, "Oh, I'm an old woman who's like a widow, and all of my." I can't remember if her children were dead in the story, but I'm a widow who has nobody essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And so a widow's garb kind of, that makes sense. It's the honey baked ham part that gets me. And I don't know if that's because she's like a goddess of motherhood or of marriage or something like that, where honey baked ham, I think of like Christmas or Thanksgiving, even like those very nostalgic home feeling type holidays. So
yeah,
that's the best I could come up with.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So he remembers that she would do things like set him down for a nap, but then he'd wake up to his mom freaking out because he was napping inside his stove.
Yeah.
Let's see, or a fireplace. Um, she taught him how to use blades by just handing him knives and like, okay, hero, learn how to handle these. Try to get him to poke a rattlesnake at one point. And a couple of other things that he mentions about her is Leo at this point knows the difference between English and Spanish, like in these memories at least. And he's like, she was singing some other language, which of course you have to think is probably Greek.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so where the blazing fireplace thing is a reference to Demeter and Demophone, um, Tia Kalita testing him with snakes is a reference to Heracles. The blade one, I don't know if it has a direct reference, but nothing came to mind with that one.
Yeah, that one, there was also a line in that one where she said something about like, this is the only way that you can learn how to be a hero or something like that. And I was like, I will stab you in the throat. Like that is not the only way that you can learn how to be a hero. Did you know that if you don't traumatize people, they retain information easier?
Yeah, exactly. And she's saying that throughout all of these weird little tests of like, you're gonna be my hero someday, so let's test you. And it's so strange. One of the more explicit times she says it is let's see. He draws a picture of a boat and she has it sent away up into the sky, it looks like. And he basically starts crying because he spent so much time on this drawing, and she says, "It isn't time yet, little hero. Someday you'll have your quest, you'll find your destiny, and your hard journey will finally make sense, but first you must face many sorrows. I regret that, but heroes cannot be shaped any other way. Now make me a fire, eh? Warm these old bones." And this kind of leads into one of the last little adventures he talks about with her, which is that he randomly set like a picnic table on fire at her direction, and like just placing his hands there sets it on fire, leaves an imprint of 5-year-old hands, and he's left unscathed despite all of the fire.
So the part of this that I wanted to make sure to remember, because so much of this book is a comparison in some way to the first books, is to bring out to me, something that I thought was obvious that I was like, why didn't I say this last time? Was that Piper's whole thing with her dad is very much like Annabeth and her dad, but it's just like slightly different. But it's still very much the same sort of thing, that Piper's dad has money but isn't emotionally available. And Piper is like a different person. She's even thinking about how she wants to be an Athena child. And it would make more sense for her to end up being an Athena child. But in this version, she's not. She's an Aphrodite child. And so it's like off or wrong or something in this version. And this whole thing with Leo just reminds me of Percy and Sally, and how Sally was being stalked by Zeus for all those years. Like Percy will mention how he remembers when he was little, like trying to fly a kite, and Zeus like hitting it with lightning when he was like 6 or something years old, and just like looking back and realizing that Zeus was always like stalking him and like trying to ruin their lives somehow. And so it feels like a very real comparison of that, of her, it being Hera instead of Zeus, and her being somebody that was like trying to assist him. But it also feels like a comparison to me of the kind of dynamic that was going on with Gabe, but just like different, where she's clearly showing up at random times, and his mom probably doesn't know. Obviously she can't stop Hera from, she's Hera, she can't stop her from coming and doing whatever she wants. But it feels similar to that, where Leo and his mom she was a good mom, and she took care of him very well and everything. That was not like something with him that was a problem or anything like that. Like, she was a good mom in the way that Sally was a good mom.
Yeah.
But like how Zeus and even Poseidon not being there was a problem for Percy. In this version, it's Hephaestus not being around at all, and Hera being like this demonic mother-in-law that is just like stalking him and doing all these horrible things to him, and his mom can't do anything to stop it.
Yeah.
But they're like different people in different situations, and so they have different things happen to them, but it's still so similar to that. To me, it feels like doing that story just like slightly differently, I guess. I even liked how he says that that Leo's mom ends up working at a machine shop because she was a mechanical engineer, but that nobody would hire her because
Yeah.
racism and sexism, which is actually that, yeah,
Yeah.
that does happen. My aunt was a structural engineer. My aunt was a structural engineer where she built gigantic skyscrapers in Chicago. Like, she built some on like Wacker Drive, which is the main part of like downtown Chicago, and like the loop by Michigan Avenue and stuff. She would build these like gigantic buildings and then come and show me and my sister which ones they were after they were done being built for like years of her life. And she was a woman and a white woman, but she still dealt with a lot of really interesting men trying to tell her what to do. But she's like, even though she's not related to me, she's very similar to me. So she got to tell those men to shut the fuck up a lot of her life. Generally, that's what she did, because that's why we get along.
Yeah.
And so she was white, and so even though she dealt with all that kind of stuff, she was white, and so it would be easier for her to deal with that. And so that is honestly an accurate thing that would happen. But I just liked that it wasn't this stereotype of like, oh, she's like poor and works in a machine shop because that's the only job she could get, which is because that's a whole like Latino stereotype or whatever that can be definitely seen in like a bad light sometimes in like TV shows and movies and things like that, to make them look like they're from the wrong side of the tracks or whatever. But in this version, she's working in one of those, but just because people are jerks. Like, she has all the education, but nobody will let her actually prove that she can do it. And she still is like incredibly intelligent and is teaching Leo all the things that he knows to build all the things that he does. It's not just Hephaestus that he gets those skills from, it's also from her. And that's how it reminds me of like Percy and Sally. The best parts of Percy come from Sally, not from Poseidon. Yeah, when I was reading this, when I read the chapter of Leo just trauma dumping, I sat the book down and just like stared at it for like a half hour, and I was like, what? And that was when I texted you and was like, why do I read these books? That was really traumatic to read. And now I'm mad that I have to I'm going to be reading the next however many books with this character in it, when these are the things that he's dealing with. And I didn't remember any of this, of course. And because it's me, I read this and I'm like, I am mad that he was my favorite character and when I read the books the first time, because I would identify with him feeling responsible for everything. And I was like, I'm so angry that this is the person that I identify with in these books. Of course it is. Of the new characters, of course I identify with this story. This is so stupid. Sometimes I just get mad about the characters and I realize that when they trauma dump, that they have a horribly traumatic life, and I'm like, oh, that's why I like you most. Oh my God. Can't I just like somebody who's normal? No, they're boring to me. God.
Yeah, so Leo ends up going with his mom to her work a lot after the last Tia Kalita incident, where it's like, okay, you're coming with me now. I'm gonna make sure she doesn't say get close to you. She says she's not coming back again. And one thing that she keeps talking about too in some of these scenes where his mother's there is like, oh, your dad's gonna meet you one day and everything will make sense and everything will be okay. We just gotta wait for your dad to know you. And it's so sad, like, because we already have the spoiler in this book that his mom died in a fire. So we know that she didn't even get to the part of his life where he figures out he's a demigod and gets to go to camp even.
Mm-mm. Yeah, she dies. It still feels similar to Percy in a way, because the end of this first chapter is him talking about how they're at the machine shop late at night and he hears his mom like yell out, and then Gaia shows up, but he doesn't know that it's Gaia, but that's who it is.
Yeah.
And Gaia shows up and is threatening him and is like, you're gonna stop me one day, so I have to kill you now. And he ends up like burning the entire place down.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, after that, they would blame him, and they blame him for his mom dying. His family turns against him and calls him like a devil child and a demon and all these things, and the rest of his family doesn't want anything to do with him anymore because they like do that thing that people do where they manufacture being scared of a child out of nowhere and act like they always thought there was something wrong with them. Like, have you ever seen like an influencer suddenly people find out that they're a sexual predator, and people show up acting like they could tell that you couldn't tell? You're pretending like you could tell. Now that this information is out, you could not tell. You followed them a week ago. You definitely could not tell. That's what Leo's family does to a 8-year-old,
Yeah.
because he was 8 when that happened, and thinks that everything is his fault and that he somehow did it. And he does have like the powers, obviously, to do it, but he ends up being put in foster care and then running away from a bunch of foster families because foster care is fucking atrocious. And so, yeah, I also agree with doing that, of running away from foster families.
Mm-hmm.
If you're gonna, I don't know,
If they are being abusive, yeah, definitely.
yeah, go do that. Because that's a lot of I don't know. There's way more stories of that kind of thing happening with foster families than, the good kind.
Yeah.
It's usually not so much like that happening most of the time. And so either way, that's why he had no idea what the heck was going on with the other stuff in all the other books, because he was too busy being complex traumatized constantly all the time.
Right.
Of having to always like run away and never have like a safe place to live, and thinking that his safety was taken away and his mom died because of something he did or something, when it definitely wasn't him.
Like he's going through these memories because he's putting the pieces together. He's realizing I saw Tia Kalita here at camp, and now I know that's Hera, and now I know why that all happened when I was a kid. And then the night the accident happened with his mom, as you said, he gets approached by another hooded figure, and this figure's dirty, like has eyes closed, like he very much recognizes, okay, the prophecy said something about Earth, so maybe that lady has something to do with it too.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's why he goes on this little trauma dumping adventure, unfortunately. One thing that was of note to me in the Gaia interaction is she says, I am not your guardian, merely a family resemblance. So, in some way, the other deities are seeing what Hera's doing as like guarding him.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's weird.
I
But
get
yeah,
it.
that definitely stuck out to me. Let's see. And when he decides to, like send fire at this woman, it says his vision turned red, flames washed over the earthen woman, the walls, the locked doors, and Leo lost consciousness. So before this lady approaches him, a door closes between him and his mom that he can't get open.
Yeah.
So him, like panicking and setting off a fire, unfortunately with her locked in, she's stuck. And that's how she dies. he wakes up with like an EMT taking care of him, and that's when people started questioning him. But yeah, when he flashes back to the present, he can hear Hera's voice in his mind saying, "It wasn't your fault, little hero. Our enemy wakes. It's time to stop running." So what Gaia said when she got to Leo as a kid was, they cannot stop me from breaking your spirit, like, because she was prevented from hurting him directly. And so the whole thing was designed like, let me inflict trauma on you, little boy, so that you remember this when you're called to the quest that will, like, save my children, essentially. Leo decides to go out into the woods, which, like, he notes here that, like, I've been told not to go in without a weapon, but he uses a flame hand. He just goes with his own natural inborn weapon. And he goes looking for the dragon. He decides that this dragon's going to be how they fly in the adventure. Let's see. And he stumbles upon one of the Hephaestus kid traps. It is, let's see, glint of metal beneath dirt and leaves, a bronze net lining the entire crater. Wait, hold on. Let me. At the bottom of a clearing, he saw the first trap, a 100-foot wide crater ringed with boulders. Leo had to admit it was pretty ingenious. In the center of the depression, a metal vat the size of a hot tub had been filled with bubbly dark liquid, Tabasco sauce, and motor oil. On a pedestal suspended over the vat, an electric fan rotated in a circle, spreading the fumes across the forest. And he thinks, like, could the dragon even smell this? Like, they're trying to lure the dragon in with this Tabasco motor oil smell. And the trap is designed so that it could potentially melt the monster if it gets in.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we quickly find out that he doesn't want it to get stuck in this trap. So he goes close to it, even though the Tabasco smell hurts his eyes. Apparently, Tia Kalita also did something with having him chop jalapenos in the kitchen and stuff to get him used to shit like this. Let's see. So he eventually does find the dragon. And the dragon doesn't listen to him, of course, as he's, like, trying to stop it from getting into the trap. It eventually gets caught, but not destroyed. And so he's like, talking to it, and he's like, first of all, I can't use you for what I thought because you don't even have wings. If I designed you, I would have designed you with wings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he realizes it's because the dragon looks way too heavy for it to actually be, like, able to fly at this point. The dragon also does what happened to the other poor Hephaestus kid and spews fire at him, but he's left unharmed because he does have this magical Hephaestus ability.
Yeah,
The dragon even.
I was picturing, like, if they make this into a TV show one day, how funny that scene would be of the dragon just, like, spewing, like, fire all over him and him just standing there afterwards being like, are you done? Like, can we continue our conversation now? And the dragon just, like, blinking at him like, that's not how this is supposed to work.
Yeah, you're supposed to be crispy. So, yeah, Leo decides, I'm going to just talk to it like it's a pet dog. And so he's, like, trying to get it to stay, says, let me fix you. Eventually, he figures out where, like, the controls are, and he figures out that it has, like, a faulty chip thing. You've got a corroded control disk. Probably regulates your higher reasoning circuits. Rusty brain, man. No wonder you're a little confused. I wish I had a replacement disk, but this is a complicated piece of circuitry. I'm gonna have to take it out and clean it. Only be a minute. And so he takes it out, he cleans it up as best as he can, and he puts it back in. Then the dragon leads him to its little lair. He also names the dragon Festus, which I'm guessing is supposed to be short for Hephaestus.
Mm-hmm.
The dragon's lair, it turns out to be a little like secret compartment on a cliff. So the dragon points this out. Leo puts his hand on the cliff. Suddenly, his fingers smoldered. Lines of fire spread from his fingertips like ignited gunpowder, sizzling across the limestone. The burning lines raced across the cliff face until they had outlined a glowing red door 5 times as tall as Leo. The door itself, he says, is perfectly balanced. That it's a first-rate example of engineering. And then the dragon goes inside and gets cozy. So inside the bunker is a bunch of it's basically a little workstation. There's tools, there's all of the things that you would need to build machinery, essentially, including like welding torches and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a flag. Was it a flag? It says bunker number 9 in there. And Leo remarks this. We don't find the answer out in this chapter, but he's like, does that mean there's 8 other bunkers like this? Or is that because Hephaestus is cabin number 9? I'm not sure. Let's see. As he's looking around and realizes this is the dragon's home, he asks the dragon, do the other kids know? But then quickly realizes, of course they don't know. They've been looking for this dragon for a while.
Mm-hmm.
He's looking around the walls. He spots a blueprint nearby a bulletin board. He ran to the work table and stared up at the white line drawing, almost faded beyond recognition. A Greek ship from several different angles. Faintly scrawled words underneath read prophecy, unclear, flight. It was the ship he'd seen in his dreams, the flying ship. Someone had tried to build it here, or at least sketched out the idea. Then it was left, forgotten, a prophecy yet to come, and weirdest of all, the ship's figurehead was exactly like the one Leo had drawn when he was 5, the head of a dragon. So essentially this little bunker has exactly what he needs, despite Festus not being a suitable means of transportation just now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they kind of imply that he found pieces of the boat or some sort of construction, because he doesn't see the boat itself in there, but Festus eventually kind of nudges towards the ceiling and shines his eyes on it. Leo looked up to where the spotlights were pointing and yelped when he recognized the shapes hanging above in the darkness. And that's where the chapter with Leo closing. But I feel like we can basically infer he saw whatever work has already been done on the ship that's in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there are 2 Jason chapters that follow, but we only read the first one. And this one definitely weaves in Roman mythology.
Yes.
Yeah, so we have Jason dreaming of wolves. And so wolves are a big part of the founding of Rome, because the twin leaders of the Roman people, the first ones, Romulus and Remus, it's the classic example of babies were left on a mountain to die, and they didn't die because an animal takes care of them. In this case, a she-wolf, although one very cheeky historian that I've translated made the connection that lupa, the word for she-wolf, can also mean prostitute. And so it's a potential that they were just weaned by, or not weaned, that they were, what's the word for breastfeeding for somebody else? That they were,
I don't know.
whatever it is. But they were given milk by a prostitute that just happened to find them. So the next sentence is, he stood in the clearing in the middle of a redwood forest. Redwood forest automatically makes me think of my area of the United States. In front of him rose ruins of a stone mansion. Low gray clouds blended with ground fog, and cold rain hung in the air. It's giving San Francisco. And I'm sure we'll get to that more, but just automatically, I'm like, I kind of have a feeling I know where we are a little bit.
Yeah.
So we eventually find out that, or like, he eventually gets to a giant she-wolf, and this she-wolf can actually talk to him. And this is, I think, supposed to be the she-wolf that nursed Romulus and Remus.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. I know this place, Jason said. Of course, the she-wolf said. You began your journey here as a pup. Now you must find your way back. A new quest, a new start. And Jason says, this isn't fair, because of course he doesn't remember any of this. The wolves didn't feel sympathy. They never expected fairness. The wolf said, conquer or die. This is always our way. Rick's going for a very, very strict Roman interpretation here, too.
Yeah. Rome
Yeah,
made it well, but this is how they were a lot of the time.
yeah. I mean, they were an empire at times, and a lot of the stuff that we have to translate and look back to is their empirical ways. So, like, yeah, it does make sense that they would be like this, but it's very intense right away.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So the she-wolf tells him, the enemy has chosen this place to awaken her most powerful son, the Giant King. Our sacred place where demigods are claimed, the birth of death or life, the burned house, the house of the wolf. It is an abomination. You must stop her. And Jason is confused. He says, like, Hera? The wolf says, use your senses, pup. I care nothing for Juno, but if she fails, your enemy wakes. And that will be the end for all of us. You know this place. You can find it again. Cleanse our house. Stop this before it's too late. I do love that, like, since he is clearly our Roman hero, that his dreams are so much more Roman flavored. Because, like, the only time we've gotten to see that in the Percy Jackson universe was the random encounter with Janice that they have in the labyrinth. So it's very intense, very, like, very militaristic, which you would expect from the person who raised Romulus and Remus, I suppose.
Yes. I
Yeah.
hate her mainly because of how she treats Percy when he wakes up.
Like, well, the Greeks were the artists. They were the fantastical ones. They were the ones that, like, that were more into art and stuff. So Romans kind of get pigeonholed into, they're kind of more clinical, they're kind of more military, like, and I don't know that that's always true, because we are big lovers of Ovid on this channel. They can be silly and funny as well. And they can definitely delve into fantasy. I mean, Ovid spun some of those myths in ways that have shaped how we retell them now, like, even in modern times. So you can have both. But Jason has already shown characteristics that he's very much a good member of that society, that he checks all of the boxes, he does everything right, and he does it even when he doesn't know he's doing it now. So you can tell he fit in with that world pretty well back when he did.
Yeah. And when you compare him to Thalia, he is kind of doing that thing again where he's on his own way sooner than she was, but still he's on his own and just expected to know what to do and is like, supposed to save everybody or something, when he's just there. And the
Yeah.
way that Thalia is supposed to do that when she's a Zeus child too. He's fun when you don't know anything. Like when people, before I read the end of this book and nobody knew what his actual last name was. I remember wondering, like, oh, I wonder when Zeus had this kid, or like who he had this kid with, or blah, 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 blah. And I don't know. These chapters, I was just like sitting there, like, why did they just trauma dump everywhere? Like,
Yeah.
Like you have to when you're doing the Percy Jackson novels. That's what happens to every kid in these books, and so you have no choice but to do that. But the last few chapters was literally like Piper trauma dumping, and then Leo, and then Jason a little bit, and I was just like, "Oh, isn't this really fun for me to read?" Like all
Yeah.
and like categorizing like a chart in my mind of all the different sorts of complex trauma they all have already before they even got to Cam.
Yeah.
And trying to like remember all of them all at the same time because they all are part of their characters. And I have to like remember this stuff about these people as they whatever happens going forward that I don't remember at all. I honestly don't remember. Like, there's a picture of this of like a house, and she said something about like Savor. I have no idea what that is. First time back in the day, and you didn't know what was coming. Like, I didn't know what like anyone read this book. We didn't know what was going on with Percy, if he was dead or not. And so it was hard for me to like focus too much on the new characters, even though I liked them. It was hard to really think about them too much because you were thinking about what was going on with Percy the whole time. And so it was like you had to like reread almost or like wait for them to show up again in Mark of Athena to really fully give them a chance, because their first book, you were so distracted by that the first time you read it when you didn't know anything about what was actually going on in this series. You really even like pay attention too much to them, which is why I didn't remember a lot of their backstory stuff beyond like what people online say, because it was hard to like focus on that when you're just thinking like what about him, like what's going, where is he, like is he just dead and they're just like having him die and moving on with like a new kid? Is he gone somewhere? Are we never going to find out where he is? And it was just like too much where it was really hard to care that much about what these new characters were doing when Percy is obviously your priority. When you're reading these books, he's the character that you were in the head of for the first 5 books. Everybody reading this book just wants to know where he is. And this is why people really dislike this book in general, is because everyone, especially back then, has a very like visceral like memory of opening up the book, seeing that the first chapter is named Jason and being like, who the fuck is Jason? And then reading the book and then getting like angry because Percy isn't in the book, and then you find out that he's missing. And like I remember that like people were reading this book and getting like really angry because he wasn't in it. And we kept like thinking that he was going to show up, and every time you thought he was going to show up, he never did.
Yeah.
And so like people were so mad. Like I was mad reading the book for the first time too, because I thought he was dead. But it's just most people were like angry reading the book for the first time. And like there's no way to do this sort of series and not have that sort of reaction. That's why I always like how Rick wrote this book anyway, because you kind of have to just sort of go for it. When you have a character that is so beloved the way that Percy is by his audience, we're never going to accept new people, and so you just kind of have to shove them down our throats, because it's the only way we're ever going to even acknowledge new people. We're never going to want new people because we're so attached to him, because he made him such a great character in the first 5 books. And so the only way you have to like forcibly make him not be there and like force the readers to read other people. That's the only way we would ever even pay that much attention to other people for a while, in order to even like care about what was going on with their story really very much. He had to do that. But it was, and it shows like why people care, like how much people care about Percy as a character and stuff, that people were so angry reading this book for the first time that feeling like has never fully like dissipated, that people just think this book isn't good, even though it's still a well-written book, but people don't think this book is good because they just associate feeling that when they read it, and they don't like it. Like who would like that?
Like where's my character? Where's my Percy? And it automatically makes you think like, oh, the quest is going to involve finding him somehow.
Yeah. Literally, like the only thing from this book that I remember, like I said, like I don't remember the actual quest because I didn't even care what the quest itself even was really. Because I just wanted them to find Percy. But like every aspect of it, there's like times in the story where you think that he's going to be the one that shows up, or that they're going to find him, or that he's going to be the one that's kidnapped, or all these different things. There's a lot of different times in the book, as we're going to read through it, we'll see them, where you think that he's going to be the one, and then he never is, and you're like, what the fuck? And like, you're definitely supposed to be like fed up like that. When you're reading it, that's the definite feeling that he was going for, of like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? But it is like a whole, like the audience definitely goes on a whole like emotional journey when you're reading this book for the first time, because you're just so frustrated that nothing that you think, things are happening the things that you think will happen don't happen, but things that do happen are like vaguely similar to the things that you think should be happening, but they're not happening the way that you think they should. And you're just sitting there looking at the book like, why is he writing it like this?
Well, I need to end it here, but we will be back next week. I just looked at it, so we have one more Jason chapter and then 2 Piper chapters. So let's do that much for next time.
Okay.
Yeah, and I guess we'll both see what happens since you don't remember. It's kind of fun for me that you don't remember everything.
Yeah, it's just blank. If you ever want to know what dissociation is like, that's what it's like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's fun in the way that like we get to catch up on some of this for the first time. Well, for the first time.
Yeah. It is
Yeah.
pretty much like the first time because I don't remember.
Yeah. So, anyways, we will see you guys for next week. William will keep working on some D&D stuff. We'll have him back in a couple of weeks.
Yep.
All right. Bye.